Hi, this is Don Schaefer. I'm excited once again to be with you on YouTube. We've been doing a series called Personal Transformation, talking about the fact that we are basically born into this world as hardware that needs to be transformed. We have to have our software correct. And from young on, a lot of times what happens is we are programmed. When we come into this world, we are an empty canvas. We are something that has nothing attached to it at all. We come into this world with a cry. We're placed in our mother and father's arms, and from there on, we're part of a programming process. It's amazing how young babies, even as babies, they pick up on things. They develop habits. They develop their personalities. They develop how they act, how they speak, what language they speak. They learn how to walk, usually in a year or so. They learn how to handle themselves when they fall and get up. They learn buttons. I know my grandchildren, amazing watching them, how they know how to operate everything. They know how to take phones and all kinds of TV remotes and whatever. They're good at buttons. I had a motorhome one time, and my rule for my grandchildren was, you go into the motorhome, you touch no buttons, because I didn't want to have to readjust anything inside of it. But we are talking a series here because there's a part of us that needs to change if we're wanting to be successful. If we're struggling, and if you're struggling in any area of life, what our programs here are meant to do is give you different ways of looking at things, being able to allow yourself to see things in a different light, maybe apply things in a different way, because the scripture we use in the beginning of all these classes that I've been teaching is in Romans chapter 12, verses 1 and 2. And it goes like, I beseech you therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service, being not conformed to this world, but being transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you might be able to prove that perfect and good and acceptable will of God for you. And this was Paul talking about this in the Bible, saying that there has to be a transformation. We can't be conformed to a world, but we have to be transformed by a renewing, making our minds new again and seeing things in a different way. And we've been taking a good period of time right now trying to, well, we call it's upgrades, giving an upgrade every week on how to look at things in a different way, helping us possibly to reprogram our thought process, because it all deals with our mind. That's the part of us that gets programmed, is the way we think. You can take two people exactly, look the same height, same everything, and totally be different, because it's all about the programming process. And I know I look at sports figures sometimes, and I remember myself, I was the exact same weight and same height as Tom Brady, quarterback for the Patriots. But Tom Brady, man, he was setting records and doing all kinds of things. I know he had his weight in different spots, but I'm saying I was exactly the same size. The only thing different was our programming. He was programmed differently than I was. Some of it is good for football. Maybe I'm good in other areas, but it's just a difference of programming. But I usually like to start this because I know God is wanting to do the supernatural in your life. And I usually like to start with a quote. And I've got one here by Andy Warhol. It says, they always say time changes things, but you actually have to change them yourself. And a lot of times that's so true. I grabbed that because I thought it was a good one. Because a lot of times people say, well, time changes things. But you know what? I think we're the ones that have to do the changing. We don't sit back and let time and the world and everything change things, because it might not be what we want. And that's why it's important for us to get ourselves in a place where we're intentionally allowing changes to happen in our life, allowing opportunity in our ways of looking at things, our emotions, our attitudes, our dispositions on everything. These are all things that we can develop in our life. We don't have to sit there and wait for situations around us to develop us. And I've got a few thoughts I want to share with you on this today, and I'm hoping that it can strike home. Every once in a while you hit a home run, and I'm hoping this class here is a home run. But your identity is a powerful influence driver. Reshaping your identity can change your whole life. It will help you govern the outcome of you. Your identity controls your emotions, relationships, and your self-worth. So it's all about how you identify yourself. You know, what your identity is. We're called names. You know, my name is Donald. And some people call me Don, some people call me a lot of other things. But it isn't my identity. It's who I am inside is what I identify with. And every one of us has some sort of identity, and it's a powerful influence tool. It's a driver. It's what makes us do the things that we do. It's what we identify ourselves with, and that's where our identity, the title of this message is Reshaping Your Identity, getting into a place where maybe our identity isn't perfectly what we want it to be, but we want to get into a place where it can be reshaped and reformed, maybe renewed, so that we can be the best. And what we're trying to do is get each and every one of you to become the better you, the better person in life, because our whole goal is to help people. And we want to reach out and help people in positive ways. Okay, what do we perceive and what we perceive and believe about ourselves in life, you will only know what's true about you. What you believe and perceive about yourself in life, you only know what is true about you. To move ahead, there needs to be a belief change. It has to be if you want to succeed in anything, I know I coach people once in a while. If you want to succeed in life, you have to change your perception of who you think you are and what you believe your makeup is. And a lot of times people get stuck in the negative. They get stuck in areas that are taking them down. You know, and they seem like they can never achieve whatever they get their hands on. It never works. You know, everything is working against them. Well, it isn't everything working against them so much as what they believe about themselves a lot of times is working against them. And to realize that things are not always as perceived. You know, it's a lot of things, it's not how we perceive them. You know, there could be, myself, I've told a lot of people when they've gone through difficult situations that it was good. And a lot of times they look at me and they say, well, you know, Don, you're not in my shoes. This isn't good at all. No, I said, you know, for change to happen, sometimes situations have to happen. Otherwise, you will be stuck in something and maybe never reach the potential that you possibly could reach because nothing has driven you out of that. And that's where to go through stressful, tough situations. Sometimes it is good because it's going to change what you perceive about yourself, what you believe about yourself, and you're going to possibly reach levels that you could have never reached unless an incident happened in your life. The world will identify you if you let it. The world will identify you if you let it. As a child, we were born with a blank canvas. It could be anything. I've gotten a lot of different, I used to paint some pictures once in a while. Completely blank canvas. Can do anything I want with it, whatever picture I want. Once I start throwing paint on it, it all changes. And that's what the world does. It throws paint upon our life. It changes us and makes us look at life the way it wants us to look at it. You were created to have God's image in you. We were created to be creative. We were created to be loving. We were created to be successful. We were created to be truthful. We were created to have principles. You know, and that's where, but we live right now in a world that wants you to have an image of it. You know, and that's where if we don't line up with what the world says we're to be, sometimes there's something wrong with us. You know, a lot of our great creative people, inventors, all of this in the past, the world at that time had told them that they maybe weren't that smart, they weren't that intelligent, they had issues in their life. You know, they were shoved out. Because I remember reading a story, and I hope I got this right. Alexander Bell, that when his mother passed away, they were going through her things, and they found a letter that she had put away from the school that he had went to. And the school said that he was to the point where they couldn't educate him. He wasn't smart enough to be in school. And they wrote a letter to the mother. And what the mother did is she took this letter and she never showed it to Alexander, but she said when he wasn't in school anymore, she told him that the school said that he's too intelligent to be in school. So he grew up thinking that he was too smart for the education program, where the program itself was saying he wasn't smart enough. Well, he had a whole different image of himself, and he created a great life for himself. And eventually, we got our telephone system through him. Great men who didn't allow the world that they lived in at that time to identify them could expand themselves. And that's where our life today, no matter where you're at, don't let people identify you and tell you you can't do this and you're no good at whatever, and that you need to fall into a certain place or whatever, when something inside you says that's not it at all. Because what happens is we start to become what they identify us to be. We need to reshape our identity. And I want to say, you have an internal thermostat that governs your life. Yes, there is a controlling element that in each and every one of us that controls us in what we do. It's our identity. It will set the course of the outcome of your life if you let it. So if you get yourself with false stuff programmed inside, there is a thermostat that will always hit whatever temperature you set it to. But if we set it right, we will have the comfort of life. That's the beauty of life we live right now, as far as our society and the homes and everything. We have thermostats. And I know I set mine to a certain temperature, and I turn it on heat during the wintertime, it keeps that temperature. I turn it on cool in the summertime, and it keeps that temperature. It doesn't matter what's on the outside, it's what's on the inside and how it's controlled. And a lot of times in our life, it's the same way. If we can get our identity set where we want it, we know who we are, we're living the life the way we want to live it, no matter what the circumstances are on the outside, we'll always go back and have that identity programmed inside of us. I know I go back a ways, but I remember my dad, we used to have a furnace at the home we lived in, and he used to throw coal and wood in it. I used to sit on the steps. I was just a young little boy sitting on the steps watching him. I'm just with my eyes real big, because he'd open up the door and the flames were roaring and he's chucking wood in there. But there really wasn't a control. If he got it going with smoking hot, it would get a little bit hot upstairs, and then by morning it started cooling down as the fire would cool down. But today we have thermostats, and that's what's a good example of what's inside each and every one of us. It's something that our identity controls. You'll always, and that's the ticket of all this, you'll always drift back to what you believe is your identity. This can be a downfall. You'll always drift back, no matter what you see yourself as, what you identify yourself as. No matter what happens in your life, you drift back. The problem is that unless things change, it doesn't matter how much you succeed. You'll always go back to the setting. So you can become successful. You see this in life. You see people that play the lottery. I'll use that as an example. They play the lottery. They win $1 million. They can have $1 million, but you give them a couple years, they usually find a way to get themselves right back to where they once were without that $1 million. And because they've got an identity set as to where they're going to be in life. And a lot of times we have done the same thing with ourselves. We have taken a small identity. We've taken unsuccessful identity, and we identify ourselves with it. That's why there's so much in life that's so important, as far as association, being with the right people, and doing the right things, reading the right material, listening to the right YouTube programs, whatever it is, because whatever you get yourself plugged into, and your friends can be friends, but they will always try to get you to identify at the level they are. So if you're identifying yourself with certain groups of people, you'll stay around that temperature zone. Your thermostat will be set. It'll always feel like you can never get ahead. You can never get ahead, because no matter what happens outside of you, you'll always drift back to the temperature that you set for yourself on the inside. You maybe should set yourself at 100 degrees so you're getting 100% successful. But you didn't set your thermostat on that. Maybe it's at 30. So no matter if you come close to 100, it'll always work itself down to 30, because the external things around you will drift back to how you're set on the inside. Your mind in this setting will always keep you in check. You can never expand yourself beyond this, because that's the way your thermostat is set up. Typically, most people blame external forces when they don't succeed. They always come up with excuses. They always blame the weather or whatever it is around for the things they don't achieve, when they fail to realize it's the identity and what they've developed inside that's really the source of everything in their life. So it isn't a matter of the circumstances around you, and they, don't get me wrong, they could be good or they could be bad. I don't know where you're at in life, but what controls your life shouldn't be the external forces, it's what's inside. And that's where a lot of times we get into the blame game. We live life all the time. I would have become this and I would have done that, but because of this or because of that, I couldn't do it. No, when truth be told, it was what was inside that has been controlling you all your life. And you see people that come from very poor, downtrodden circumstances to America, and they come with an expectation of greatness, and they've set a thermostat to achieve it, and they come into our country and they become super successful. I know I talked to a young gentleman from Romania, and he and a brother are in the United States right now, and they're buying up old restaurants and converting them, and they're successful. I know if you're in the Wisconsin area, one in Monaco, Wisconsin, they took an old Perkins, and I can't remember the name of it. I think he named it after his daughter, but I went in there and they redid the inside, and the place is just beautiful and is running real well. And I wanted to talk to the manager, and I got the opportunity, and he explained to me, how they were doing this. They did it to one, and they realized that, hey, this works good, and they did it another one, and they're constantly looking on developing and expanding their business. Well, see, they had a different thermostat. It didn't matter, how badly they were treated in Romania or whatever the circumstances in the United States were. They had a thermostat to succeed, and they're going after this. External didn't affect them. They feel that the external conditions are always the problem sometimes in people's lives, and people will live their life that, because people are always looking for a good excuse not to do some things that they know they could do and probably should do, but they're taking an opportunity to look for an excuse. And myself, in my personal life, I'm trying to eliminate all excuses. I remember I worked for a company, and the theme of it, there's no excuses. They tried to eliminate accidents. And I remember giving out awards for a million hours worked with the workforce, and they were giving out jackets and different things of that nature to reward the people. But they were saying there's no excuse for accidents. A lot of times they say it's because of this, because of that. They weren't looking for excuses. They were looking for results. And that's where our life should be a little bit. We shouldn't be looking for a good excuse. We should be looking for results and setting our thermostat to achieve it. And some of them will never, because it's never them. They will never succeed in life, because no matter what happens, it's never them. It's always circumstances on the outside. It's not how they've set themselves on the inside. It's always circumstances on the outside. And that's a trap. That's where people get themselves trapped into, because it's always about what's set on the inside. It's always about the programming that you've allowed to happen in your life. That's how you handle yourself. And that's where this whole class here, I'm hoping, resonates with you, because if you can get a hold of that thermostat, get a hold of your mindset, and get yourself to reshape your identity, seeing yourself in a different way. I am not that. I am better than that, and I'm going to reach that level. I'm going to take it, my thermostat right now, and move that. You can adjust your thermostat and reshape your identity and develop yourself in powerful ways. But the element that's needed, yes, it's your faith in God, and He is the one that helps you adjust your identity. It says in Matthew 17, that if you have the faith of a grain of mustard seed, you can move a mountain. And that's the beauty of life. You have to believe in you. You have to believe in the God that created you. You have to believe in the elements that are around all of that. You can change your identity and you can get yourself in a positive way. Life has so much to offer, and we can choose the level of life that we want to live, but we realize it all starts from the inside. And if we can change the thermostat, we can adjust our identity, reshaping ourselves, having a renewed mind, thinking of things in a different way. There's great blessings to life. And I know God is wanting to do a great work in your life. And I appreciate you spending some time with me. I'm hoping this resonates. If you do, please subscribe to us, because we're looking for members that can follow along, and everything that we put out will come your way. And what we're trying to do is help you to become the better you. God bless, and thanks for tuning in.